Greetings and salutations, everyone! It's that time of year again to give you some Halloween cheer. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone wants to know why I haven't really said anything about the new DuckTales series after the trailer thing I did back in spring. Well, that's an easy question. See all these reviewers? Yeah, I got nothing to add. Even Doug Walker got a video up pointing out that they're ducks and they float before I could. I would have put it out, but no! He got to it first, damn you! So instead of reviewing the very first episode of the new DuckTales series, I'm going to review a very bad episode of the OG DuckTales series. With that said, I'm tuned amp, I'm tuned up, and this is the Ducky Horror Picture Show. And you thought My Little Pony was bad with the horse pun episode names. Oh no! DuckTales was doing it way before My Little Pony, only with ducks. But before we get to that, yeah, I suppose we should talk about the 2017 DuckTales series. Like with most current Disney television animation these days, it's solid. It's another one of these series that it's fun to watch with the whole family, because it doesn't talk down to your kids, and that's the way a lot of Disney series are right now. Everything from Milo Murphy's Law, to Gravity Falls, to Star vs. the Forces of Evil, to Tangled the series. The way Disney presents itself in television animation is to appeal to adults and kids. Well, most of the time. And it's something, most of the time, Cartoon Network gets wrong. I like the adventures, I like the characters. I have no problem with Huey, Dewey, and Louie sounding a little bit older than the original series characters. I'm still waiting for them to say Quackaroony and to see how they sleep, because that was rather funny in the original series. And the one thing they took out from the original series, that is probably the best thing they took out, is they got rid of the cringe. They got rid of the kiddie feel of the original series. You know what I'm talking about. Characters like the original Webby and Mrs. Beagley and Gyro Gearloose and Doofus. Characters with sugary sweet odd voices and the cringe-inducing sugary sweet music. Especially whenever Webby's on screen.
I don't have any friends back home. That's why I was out on the ice above. We like you, Skittles.
Uncle Scrooge. It's characters like these that don't really fly in this generation's animation, because they had a more preschool feel than they do grade school to teenagers. If you know what I mean. Don't get me wrong, I like the original DuckTales well enough, but the original DuckTales had its flaws. One of those flaws is the original 65 episode run. Now it takes an average of 6 months to produce a single episode for the series. And of course that's all in parts, from concept to writing to storyboarding to recording voices to animation to cleanup to music, etc, etc, etc. Animation is probably one of those things that takes the most time to do. That's why Disney outsourced the animation to at least 4 or 5 different companies. Sometimes you can tell which episode is animated by which company, because the animation can range from great to really sloppy. This is why I actually like the idea of not having a 65 new episode run of the new series in syndication, because with 13 episodes, you're down to one animation studio, so the quality of animation is going to be more consistent. But the writing is also going to be more consistent as well. With 65 episodes in one season in syndication, you're going to get a lot of crap episodes. And we're going to talk about one of them. DuckTales, the Ducky Horror Picture Show. The episode starts with Huey, Dewey, and Louie watching a Frankenstein horror movie, being terrified on what's on screen. Is this joke too easy? I think it's too easy. Yeah, that one's not any better. Keep in mind that these three battle monsters all the time. They battle dinosaurs, strange creatures, aliens, and whole other horrible things like knowing that this is going to be their future. So a little horror movie should not be that intense. We also learned that the movie theater they're watching this movie in is owned by Scrooge McDuck. It's called the Scrooge-O-Rama Dome. Yeah, I completely forgot how self-centered and egotistical Scrooge is. Although I guess he's earned that right.
Do you really think there are monsters in the world?
Kids, you saw a Beagle Boy turned into a dragon by a witch. What do you think? They leave the movie theater and an actor dressed up as Frankenstein scares them. We get past what they think is a joke, and we hear Scrooge gloating about how well his movie theater is doing. We also get to the point where the nephews ask Scrooge if he believes in monsters, where he tells them nothing like the wolf, duck, Dracula, and Frankenstein. So I guess we all know who's coming to visit in this episode. Next we see Scrooge and his latest acquisition, an old abandoned building that needs a lot of work. Scrooge plans to make the building into the next Duckburg Convention Center. Unfortunately, it seems to cost a little bit more to fix up than Scrooge had anticipated. He can afford to fix it up no problem, but the point of a business acquisition is, even if you have the money to fix it up, you have to make sure that you're going to make money in order to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, what's the point? And considering Scrooge gloated that he's never lost money on a project before, he's not about to lose money on this one.
I've never lost money on a project, and I'll make a profit on this one even if it costs every dime I have.
So Scrooge finds himself his very first customer for the convention center. Not Shady Duck Guy. Yeah, I understand that looks can be deceiving and not judge a character on their outer appearance, that this is a 1980s cartoon, and that's obviously going to be a problem character.
There'll be about 50 of us. Do you suppose you might also provide us with...
Also keep in mind that quote, we're going to hold you to those 50 guests you promised later. Scrooge gets a little too greedy, because not a wolf duck, really I'm not a wolf duck, asks Scrooge about providing rooms. And Scrooge automatically thinks, hey, I can rent my mansion out to this, really, I'm not a wolf duck. Here's the thing though, Scrooge pretty much owns everything in town, so along with this convention center, you'd think he would also own a couple hotels. But the money from those 50 conventioneers, no really, there's going to be 50 of them, would only go to help pay for the hotels, not pay for the convention center. So I guess it does make sense to have Scrooge open his mansion that can apparently hold 50 conventioneers. So this way the money doesn't go to his other properties. It would go to the convention center. It's actually kind of smart business when you think about it. So I'm totally not a wolf duck. Stop calling me a wolf duck. Tells his friend Count Dracula, a vampire, about where the convention is going to be held. Because Count Duckula is used by another series. Count Duckula. So, if you call me a wolf duck again, I'm going to do something about it. Tells Count Dracula that the group, Monsters Unanimous, has found a place to meet now, and to let everyone know. So, hey, seriously, I'm not a wolf duck, knock it off, continues with his phone call, but gets harassed by seriously, I'm not a used car salesman. So that's it, I'm pissed because you keep calling me a wolf duck, gets really angry and turns into... believe it or not, a minion. Oh, I mean a wolf duck. And scares the, really, I'm not a used car salesman away. The nephews overheard the, okay, you got me, I really am a wolf duck, howling at the night, and they ask Uncle Scrooge if it's from one of his monster movie promotions. Make a note of this for later because we are going to go into the boy who cried wolf duck territory eventually in this episode. Scrooge says he didn't hear any wolf and there's no such thing as movie monsters. Even though you battle a movie monster who's trying to get your number one dime all the time. We go through a sequence of Count Dracula and I want to say Igor, but Igor works for Frankenstein, so this has got to be Renfield. No, it has to be a duck or bird pun monster name. Renfield? which shockingly doesn't change anything. So Dracula and Renfield are preparing and sending out invites, naming names of the 50 attendees going to the convention. Seriously, folks, there's going to be 50 of them. Then we get a sequence of the invitations being delivered, and we see the way these monsters are living. We see about 6 of the intended invitees. These include the Blob, the creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein monster, and the Bride of Frankenstein. The group gets ready to meet the "Okay, I'm a wolf duck, quit pointing it out" in front of the convention center. Scrooge asks the "Hey, I told you to stop with the wolf duck" why the group was meeting underneath the full moon, because that's totally an observation worth noting. There is one observation that I've noticed with this version of Scrooge McDuck. Whenever he makes a joke about money, or whenever he talks about taking other people's money, he laughs. Not even when it's a joke, just when he talks about money in general.
Oh, bah! Who cares if you're different, as long as you carry a major credit card?
We get it. You're greedy. So, "Hey, stop pointing out that I'm a wolf duck" tells Scrooge that the conventioneers are a little different. He says it like this.
Please don't be alarmed, Mr. McDuck, if our group seems a little different.
They're bronies. So the 50 conventioneers show up in a tiny van. So are all 50 crammed in there like clowns? No? Wait a minute. That's not 50. That's like 9 or 10. Can Scrooge make his money back on just 9 or 10 conventioneers? So a small busload of monsters show up and start being really obnoxious for some reason. Scrooge is freaking out because they look like monsters. Keep in mind, this is before anime conventions, cartoon conventions, comic book conventions, and Star Trek conventions. Well, maybe not Star Trek conventions, but this is before the whole let's dress up in cosplay and go to conventions thing. Before it got normalized. So I guess Scrooge is kind of justified for being a little worried. So, the "I'm gonna smack you upside the head if you call me Wolf Duck one more time" declares they're going to do more than party. They're going to talk about how to progress their struggle for monsters' rights. Maybe stop calling yourself monsters? That would help. And maybe not whacking Scrooge McDuck into the ocean after transforming into a wolf duck? That would help as well. And then we get a scene watching Scrooge McDuck struggle to float in water. He's still a duck. Okay, let's get this straight. First thing you do when you're talking about monsters' rights is whack a person you're renting the convention hall from and who is giving you room and board while you're here into the ocean. You're off to a good start. And this is not the last time monster equality is going to come up, and is going to take a turn for the not so good. So we have a commercial break, and it's an obviously placed commercial break, because when we return from the commercials, we return to Scrooge in the water, but now it's daytime. Kinda makes you feel like the whole noticing the full moon thing was the only reason why they animated this in night in the first place. Of course, turning from night to day does take a rather long time. What was Scrooge doing all that time? Because he was still in the water. Has he been contemplating what he has done with his life up until now? Because it doesn't take him that long to get out of the water. We then run into everybody's favorite character in a children's cartoon, the Inept Cop. Apparently, during the commercial break, the monsters have already had their party and went to Scrooge's mansion. Along the way, they pretty much destroy the town. The concept of time is horrible in this episode. The cop accuses Scrooge of pulling a publicity stunt for his monster movie marathon. Okay, Mr. Police Officer, let me ask you this. Do you know the difference between a paid Hollywood actor playing a monster for publicity and an actual monster? I don't think you do. You know what a paid movie actor would not do? Destroy an entire city on the way to McDuck Manor! You know who would do this? Criminals and vandals. Even if they're not real monsters, they're still trashing the city. Which makes them... I'll wait for you to figure this out. It starts with a C, followed by an R. Criminal? It's criminals! It's criminals, you dumbass! Do your damn job! Also, why would Scrooge destroy his own convention insurance? Scrooge would actually wreck his own place for insurance. The monsters make their way to McDuck Manor, all 50 of them, mind you, and the first things out of their mouths is the word Waka Waka.
Waka waka whoopee!
I know why there's not 50 monsters at this convention, because 39 of them avoided it like the plague, because the only ones that showed up are obnoxious or losers. Because who says waka waka when they go to a party? And believe me, these are the most annoying, unfunny monsters since Little Monsters. That's what I would be saying if I actually saw Little Monsters. So it's a guess. The nephews and Mrs. Beagley think that the monsters are actors hired to promote Scrooge's monster movies. We get more bad puns and Scrooge arrives to deal with the monsters. The monsters, of course, are wrecking his mansion. They flood it, they add a few holes in the rooms, they are on a redecorating spree. Oh, and they're just obnoxious. Then comes the big confrontation with the wolf duck. I can't think of any more jokes for this thing, and it's already worn out its welcome anyway. Scrooge doesn't say anything about monsters, but he does point out to the wolf duck that his guests have cost him a fortune. And that's when the wolf duck comes up with this crap.
Admit it, Mr. McDuck. You're making us leave just because we're monsters.
Let's play. Which answer will Scrooge say? Will he choose A? No, you signed a contract that guarantees me the right to kick you out for destroying my property and gives me the right to sue you for any damages that you've done to my property. B. Yes, horrifying, dangerous, incredibly destructive monsters. Or C. You destroyed my convention center. You destroyed the town. You destroyed my mansion. Yes, I want you out. Guess which one the moron chooses.
Aye, horrifying, dangerous, incredibly destructive monsters.
Place obvious meme here. And then the wolf duck demands his money back. To that, Scrooge should have just said no. Because, again, there should have been a contract, and Scrooge is smart enough in business to know about these things. Things that should say in any agreement that is signed by both parties that there is a no refund clause if you get kicked out for justifiable reasons. Say like, destroying the properties that this business duck has allowed you to use for your leisure. But let's not belittle the point. The wolf duck used the race card in a children's cartoon. He is justifying the actions of him and his fellow monsters by saying to Scrooge, you don't like us because you're racist against monsters. Whether or not that is true is not up for debate at this point. Because he doesn't like you because you destroyed his stuff and you don't know how to act in public. Can you imagine what these guys would be like if they weren't monsters? Would Scrooge treat them any differently if they rented his convention center and they destroyed it, destroyed the town, and destroyed his mansion? If they were regular human beings, or whatever they call themselves in this cartoon, he would still want them out of his mansion. So you can't really use the monster race card to make him feel guilty. But of course, Scrooge McDuck is written as a dumbass in this cartoon, and gives in to the monsters because they threaten him with asking for refunds, which means he would lose money on a business venture for the first time. Technically, there were still only 10 of them that went to the convention, and renting his mansion, so he wasn't going to make a profit off of this anyway. Kids, this is not how a business in real life works. It's going to take more than one convention to make a profit. Later on, the nephews find out the monsters are actually nice. They're still a bunch of asshats, but they're not going to kill you. They ask Scrooge if the monsters could stay. Scrooge has decided that he has no choice, and he might actually break even if he lets them stay. He won't, but I've talked about that already. And then King Kong shows up. I'm sorry, Ping Pong. Alright, that's it. I've put up with a lot with this episode. It's one bad pun after another. It's not funny at all. I'm drawing a line at the stupid ape that didn't even go to the party at the convention center. So Scrooge didn't even make any money off of him. So it appears Ping Pong is going to hang out on the largest building in Duckburg, which is of course Scrooge's money bin. Who didn't see that coming? Oh, put your hands down, everyone saw it coming. So he's also not paying to stay at McDuck Manor. He is a loiterer! Ping Pong reaches the top of the money bin, and what does he do? Nothing. He's just sitting there. Yep, that's it. The biggest out of all the monsters, and he's just sitting there. He's not even being annoying or destructive. The little obnoxious monsters did more damage in this episode than this guy has. The stupid cop that did nothing before shows back up. And what do you know? He does nothing either. Wait a minute. No, he tells everyone that it's a publicity stunt because robot technology has really gotten so advanced to produce a robot that size. Oh, shut up! Scrooge panics and tells the cop to do something about it. The cop tells him off and leaves. To be fair, this is probably not the first time Scrooge has panicked about his money bin. He probably called the cops if he thought a cockroach was trying to steal his— Oh, shut up! Meanwhile, in the 2 or 3 minutes we're dealing with this, the monsters have managed to find themselves across town to Scrooge's movie theater. I swear the pacing in this episode is horrible. It would have been okay if it felt like some time has passed, but it doesn't. Ping Pong was there just as a distraction, because the monsters never go up or say anything to him. All we get is the Scrooge with the cop, and that's just a distraction while the monsters hightail it across town in like a minute. It doesn't feel like enough time has passed for them to do that. Heck, they didn't even use a commercial break for that. So the monsters are picketing outside of Scrooge's movie theater.
It feels good to have a purpose, to work together to improve life for all monster kind.
Well, if that's the case, then maybe they should not have made you into the main antagonist for the DuckTales video game. By the way, what rights are they asking for? Are they asking for equality? Because if you wanted to be treated equal, then maybe you should not have trashed the place?
Monster movies turn people against us. Make children afraid of us.
Well, no. Causing property damage and attacking people for no reason is the reason why people and kids are afraid of you. Not because of monster movies. I think they're more upset that they're not getting paid for the use of their likeness, not because of people being afraid of them. Sorry to say that every president since the early 1970s feel the same way because of Saturday Night Live. So the monsters threatened to do more property damage because Scrooge admitted that the theater was his. Because of this, the monsters threatened to tear down the movie theater and destroy everything around it. Because of abusive monsters or some crap. Because nothing proves everything you just said wrong by doing exactly what everyone expects monsters to do. The wolf duck is stopped by a little girl who wants his autograph. Because again, she thinks that this is a publicity stunt, not an actual monster. And that is because they are right in front of the theater. The monsters are happy about this discovery. The fact that the kids love them because of the movies, and the kids only like them because they think that they are actors in costumes. Don't tell the monsters that! Scrooge gets an idea. Being the opportunist that he is, Scrooge makes a deal with the wolf duck, and that idea is to put on a monster show with the other monsters. Because there is nothing like throwing away your morals and ideals like show business. It's like if Jesse Jackson were to suddenly give up all of his ideals just to be in a movie that intentionally makes African Americans look bad just so he can become famous. He wouldn't do that. So Scrooge's monster show is a success. He made enough money to repair all the damages done by the monsters. And from their half of the proceeds, the monsters have made enough money for them to hold their convention anywhere they want, starting the whole cycle over again. Because nothing has really changed for them, has it? Because they're still obnoxious, they're still going to knock things over, and they're still going to be in trouble. But thankfully, we never did a follow-up episode. So that's the Ducky Horror Picture Show. I'm going to be honest, I do not know what they were aiming for in this episode. If there was supposed to be a moral or not. If there was, it got messed up so badly because the execution was terrible in this episode. Because if we were supposed to sympathize with the monsters because of how people treat them, well, they made it impossible to do that. Not when they are tearing up buildings and attacking people for no reason, and then they justify their actions by saying that the only reason why you don't like us is because you are discriminating against monsters? In that situation, that excuse is not a scapegoat. It's a scare tactic. That rhetoric is dangerous, especially since this is coming from a children's cartoon. Replace the word monster with any race, religion, gender, or lifestyle. This episode teaches kids to use that as some kind of weapon, to say that it's okay to do bad things, and if you get in trouble because of it, well, just say that the people who are accusing you are only doing it just to discriminate against you. It's because of things like this that hurt those who are actually being discriminated against. Now, did the kids from the 80s actually took this from the episode? Well, there's no telling. After all, it is 30 years later. Now, if the new DuckTales series tackles this episode, I'm sure it would be handled differently because it is a sensitive subject nowadays. However, movie monsters are not exactly the best representation when it comes to this subject. That is because of the variety of monsters and the reasons for being feared. And let's get this over with. This guy is not a monster. He's just a duck that looks different with no powers or curses or anything. Even the other monsters are discriminating against this guy by calling him a monster. Shame on you. The thing at the end where the monsters think the kids like them for who they are, instead of the monsters thinking the kids like them because they are some kind of celebrity, do these kids actually think that these are real monsters? Also, Scrooge exploiting them in the end is also really phoned in. The only problem that was actually solved in this episode is Scrooge paid off the convention center because the monsters are going to leave and still will be feared because they are still going to tear up things unless someone told them not to. Kids, you've got to follow the when in Rome rule. Otherwise, you're just going to have the same problems over and over again. Seriously, nothing was solved for you. Maybe Scrooge learned something about the monsters, but it doesn't seem like it. He was more worried about his properties than he was about monsters' rights. And when he found out that he could exploit the monsters for his own purposes, #quacksploitation, make that a thing, he didn't even think twice about how the monsters may look at the end of it, because they were still doing horror movie stuff during the stage play. In the end, no one really changed, neither the monsters nor Scrooge. This was just an episode about how Scrooge made a convention center profitable. Or maybe, just maybe, I'm thinking about this a little too hard, and this is not what they were going for at all. All I know is, for an episode that doesn't have Doofus, Webby, or Bubba, this episode annoyed me, pissed me off, and made me yell at the TV, "Shut up with your stupid monster puns, you obnoxious schmucks." So that's our video. If you liked it, please hit the like and subscribe button. Also ring that bell for any future videos that I publish. You can find me on Facebook under Tunamp Art and Entertainment. Find me on Twitter under Tunamp Reviews. Find me on Tumblr and DeviantArt under Tunamp. Or support me on Patreon under Tunamp.